Hello, welcome to our shop. It is a very early Tuesday morning. Very chilly, wet, rainy day here in West Virginia. So what we have to deal with here today, actually I've been doing some work on this yesterday. I decided this morning that we got to get some of this. So what we have here is a 52 Gibson Southern Jumbo that was purchased from one of the big vintage moguls, and it had some restoration work done. At this point, I've already made a new nut. The original nut that they had made for it here, if you actually fretted it here at the 3rd fret, the strings were laying on the 1st fret. The nut was way too low. Customers complaining about buzzing open. It's also been refretted, and the 1st fret was way too high, plus there's some other fret issues here that I've had to do some leveling on. So I did a quick fret dress on the surface of the frets here, which gets us into something else. There's a lot of things here about the frets I'm not happy about. The edges are not trimmed well. There's actually some mushrooming over the edges of the binding. There's been some pieces of binding missing. I'll show you more on that on the other side here, that they basically just filled in with, looks like, some kind of gray epoxy. Flip over and let you see the other side. See here what I'm talking about. Chances are pretty good when they're heating the frets up to take them out, they actually melted the binding there, or it chipped out. And again, up here the fret ends don't look very good. So I'm going to trim the fret ends up here in a few and get them cleaned up. They got little sharp edges on them I don't care much for. Getting on back here, I had to reshape the bridge saddle. Found out that it fit horribly in the bridge itself that has been made as a replacement. Also found a rattle underneath these inlays here are actually bolts. So the bridge is actually bolted on too, and the nuts were loose underneath them, so they rattled on certain notes. The corners of the bridge are loose. They're not very bad, but I'm going to leave that alone. I guess they figured it was bolted on anyway. I don't believe in that, but I'm only taking care of a few things here the customer asked me to do because this is getting ugly enough. I said, ran into a few other things here along the way. The truss rod nut, I'm going to put a spacer on it. Oh, and I've also already plugged the screw holes. They were completely stripped out for the truss rod cover. There's been a lot of heat damage here done to the inlays. Looks like this guitar has actually had a neck reset, and they've melted some inlays up here a little bit. These particular ones right here and here have a lot of spotting in them where they bubbled. I'll show you some more stuff later, especially when you get the tape off this. And they did the neck reset, the shoulders actually pitch in here a little bit on it. I'm finding lots of funny stuff here. And like I say, this is one of our legendary vintage house repairs. So it's been dropped in a little hillbilly boy's lap here to take care of. So we're going to see what we can do. I'm going to carry on. Alright, well, after a little over 3 hours, we're pretty much finished. So you see our new nut. If you look right here, you see a little brass washer that uses a spacer on these truss rods. What the deal is, the nut was pulled back so far, there was so much thread sticking out here that you could barely get a truss rod wrench on it. So I took it off, cleaned it up. There was a lot of dried up rusty crap underneath this nut. So I lubed all that up. The truss rod worked a lot better when I put it back together. I had to kind of struggle to get the neck straightened out on it earlier, but this time around I did not. We've cleaned up our fret ends here. They look a little bit better and a little smoother. They should not cutting us any. I have enough problems keeping them getting cut in here. Like there's a Les Nessman moment. Anyway, so you can see here where I was talking about the sides being pinched in. This guitar at one time has had cracks down through the body here. You can see where it's been repaired. Plus there's some pretty rough patches underneath the top here for that. I also had to vacuum out a whole bunch of wood dust and so on out of the guitar from when they put in the pickup system. When they drilled for the end peg back here, they left a lot of sawdust in the guitar. Let's flip over here and look at the back. Oh, here's a good place to start. I found this paint line here interesting where they've done the neck reset. It's about the same on both sides. This side actually looks a little worse. The pick guard is loose. We're not going to take it off and re-glue it. Has loose in the center. And let's see what else I found back here. That's pretty much it. There's just a lot of there's still rubbing compound stuck in the binding that they didn't clean out. The point here is this is a high-end vintage shop. I kind of expect a little bit more. But then again, I'm just a piddly little repair shop in West Virginia. What does my opinion matter? But I fixed the problems that the customer requested. Got rid of all these buzzing on these open strings. I reshaped and refitted the saddle back here. Like I say, we talked about that earlier. I was a little disappointed with what I found there. Again, tightened up these nuts back here so they didn't rattle. That just about covers it. But a little bit of time involved here straightening this guitar out. So I'm going to move on, go to my next patient. Oh, like I said, we've got this patched up here. We'll get the truss rod cover back on. It's unfortunate the front end of it was broken out. But that's the way it came in the shop, and it's probably the original truss rod cover. A couple decades ago, I had an all-original 52 Southern Jumbo like this. It was actually a 51 or 52. I forget exactly. I remember it was just like one of those 2 years. From about 30 miles south of us, come in, and I had to do some work on that guitar, and it just blew me away. I actually thought that it had loose braces because the top was so flexible on it, but it did not. It was just a very good diaphragm. I say until that point, I really didn't have a whole lot of respect for Gibson acoustics. I'd seen a lot of 70s Hummingbirds and J45s and stuff like that. But that old Southern Jumbo was what I refer to as a real Gibson acoustic. So anyway, it was a cannon. It was the loudest guitar I've ever seen. Loud and really rich sounding. So anyway, on to this one. So I'm going to wipe this down and get it ready to put away, write up his bill, and get ready for my next patient for the day. So till next time, play nice. I'll see you later.